So my name is Christine Richardson and I'll be steering this online session. I'd like to begin by acknowledging the traditional owners and custodians of the lands on which we meet today. I'm coming to you from the Whadjuk country of the Noongar Nation, and I pay my respects to their elders past and present. I extend that respect to Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders people here today. We from the Urban Bushland Council join you in caring for country. Next slide. Let me just welcome you here tonight, and thank you for all being here and your interest in and the advocacy for our natural environment. We've had 65 people register for this session, and we've been really overwhelmed by that response, so thank you. And with such a large number and with our less than perfect webinar skills, I ask you to help us out this evening, and we do want to finish at 7 o'clock. We are recording this session. If you're not comfortable with this, you could turn your video off, and you could change your name on the Zoom call to something that's not identifying. Could you please make sure that your microphones are muted during this session, and we will also go along and mute your microphone for you if we get some interference. We'll be taking questions at the end of the session. You can use the chat as we go along to raise questions that come to mind. Towards the end of the session, there's time set aside for questions. I'll ask you to use the raise hand reaction and turn on your video if you've turned it off. Can you just make sure you know where to find the raise hand? It's in the react section. We'll do our best to answer all the questions that you have within the session. If there's insufficient time, we'll answer them by email. Let me just talk a bit about UBC, our Cons Council, and tonight's speakers. Urban Bushland Council is hosting this session with fabulous support from our Cons Council's nature program. So over the last 12 months, UBC has built a strong collaboration with CCWA and the other environmental organisations, mainly through the shared commitment to advocate for the independence of the EPA in face of review recommendations that impair its independence and thus reduce its capacity to protect our environment. And I know many of you were at Environment Matters last week for an update on the situation of black cockatoos. Thank you for continuing your interest and advocacy by coming along to our session. Tonight you'll meet Elizabeth Eaton and Colma Keating from UBC and Catherine or Kat Neves from Cons Council. Together we'll guide you through an advocacy plan for talking to your candidates in your electorates about the care for your patch and the importance of better care for all of our urban biodiversity. We do need to make sure that all of our political candidates understand there is a strong community groundswell for better protection of our natural environment, and that survivals of species such as our charismatic black cockatoos relies on us doing more and not less. We are encouraging you to meet with your local candidates, and if you're a member of a friends group, at your patch. There's nothing better than showing them why you love your patch and why the whole interconnectedness of nature is important. But there is a chance they'll be too busy to make time to meet with you on your patch. Then you might need to track them down via socials and see where they will be meeting their community and just rock up. So we have a plan for you for those meetings. We have a list of 7 nature-related asks and some resources that back them up. And you'll hear more on that later. I know that we're very close to the election, but this week is also the first week that the full list of candidates was available for every electorate because the nominations closed late last week. The flow of tonight's session is over to Elizabeth first to show you where and how you'll find the electorate your patch is in and the candidates for that electorate. Then Catherine will talk you through the 7 nature-related asks and our scorecard. And Colma will tie up the loose ends, overview the changes to the upper house voting, talk you through the resources available, and facilitate question time. And I'll bid you good night and good luck at 7 o'clock. Now I'll get Kat to move the spotlight to Elizabeth.
Hello, everybody. It is good to have such a lot of interest at this stage of electioneering. I just want to make a couple of preliminary comments before we go to the website. And in part, Christine's already mentioned them. And candidates at this stage of the election might well be busy. They might have a number of engagements, but a prime persuader for them will be how many voters you can offer to bring with you to meet with them. So if you're asking them to meet on your patch, can you get at least 5 or a dozen or so people to be with you to increase the numbers to increase the chances of them being interested, basically. And if you have to actually go to a place where they are publicly already planned to be publicly available and you get to ask a question, start off with something about your patch that's special. You know, is it a Carnaby cocky breeding ground, or does the school use it as a teaching resource? Some special thing about your patch, and draw them in. Those comments I know are general, you probably know them, but then hang your local interest onto that kind of thinking and develop that local interest in how you contact your candidate. To actually go to the website, you just go direct to WAEC website, and the first page that comes up as you see in front of your screen now. Your vote goes a long way. You scroll down to the page that is how to vote in the state election. There are 3 options. The middle option is select your candidate, or find your candidate, I think, rather than select, sorry. And then I'm hoping the next page is a little bit more detailed, that I can talk to it. Is that second half of the page a bit more visible, or are we... Once we click on find your candidate, you then get an option to select your electoral boundary area. And once you've selected one, you can then say, in this instance, work through we've selected Churchlands for you, and you can work through that district profile, and it tells you quite a lot about them. Also, there's a section about candidate detail, and you get the information that the candidate has provided to the Electoral Commission. They don't always have phone numbers. In fact, in my perusal, the ones I perused mostly, they don't have phone numbers. So you may have other ways to access a phone number or not. You just have to engage via email and hope that they are interested enough to reply. If you need to go to a second electoral boundary, you can just go up to this section here and click in your second electoral one. You don't have to get off that page to find more details of more electoral districts. I think just then the usual contact. If you can get them on phone, then good. Otherwise, you're trying email and hoping like mad that they're responding. I think they're the notes I've gone through, and I think I usually do things too quickly, not too slowly, so we might have saved some time there. Does any one of my fellow co-hosts want to make an effort, a comment on what I've said? I think it looks like no. I think I...
Yeah.
Mm.
So Elizabeth, I'll just say to everyone that we've gone and put the links into the chat, and if if you've got 2 screens, or you've got enough screen space, you can go and hit those links, and you can see what we've been talking about. We didn't we didn't know how it would look if we went in and out of the presentation off to a website, and we weren't that confident of our webinar skills. But we will send those links out later, and they are in the chat now.
Thank you, Christine. I think I'm handing back to you now, or handing on to Colma.
So no, we're handing. I think we'll hand over to Catherine.
Hello, everyone. Just going to change some slides. So, Elizabeth has just talked about how to find the contacts and how to contact them. So I'm going to talk about what to talk about when you meet with your candidates on your patch, hopefully on your patch. I just thought it would be a little bit valuable to hear a little bit about my experience because it gives context to why I'm sharing what I am. I have worked as an electorate officer before for two different members of parliament in two different political parties. I've also been a campaign manager during different political elections. So I've worked closely with candidates and have a good sense of what they respond to and what I've seen work well as well. Not sure how many people in the online space today have met with candidates before, but if you haven't, hopefully this is valuable for you. Top line thing is to have a clear ask and to know who the candidate is. So research into your candidate would be the number one thing beyond their political party affiliation. See what you can find out about them. I've met with members of parliament before and candidates before and put asks to them and they've responded with, didn't you know I already had that as priority? And also, yes, I care very deeply about that and I wasn't aware of that as well. So it's really valuable first impressions and building that relationship to know who your candidates are. And then second, it's really important to really share information about yourself with the candidate. What they want to know is who you are, how you connect in their electorate, what connections you have in their electorate as well. How long have you lived in the electorate? They want to know, I guess, yeah, how they can connect with you and what they can connect with you about. Yeah, so I'd say that's probably very important, and also including information about your experience with engaging with other members of parliament. If there's an incumbent and you've had a good experience with them and you're talking with other candidates, it's really valuable to share, you know, you've had good engagement with the member of parliament or you haven't, because that can maybe influence how they engage with you moving forward. Trying to change the screen. I think Elizabeth actually spoke to this before, so we could probably jump ahead a bit, but in way of framing your meeting once you meet on your patch as well, I really encourage you to put it on the candidate to share what they know about the local patch. It could be that you're working with a blank canvas. They don't know anything about its ecological value, the history of it, people who are connected to the space. So I'd really encourage you to ask the candidates what they know about the place that you're meeting them on and reflect that back to them. And then that's your opportunity to share what you know about the place, why you care, and we'll get to it as well, linking to the 7 priority nature asks too. So when you're meeting with the candidate, what we have prepped up is a nature priority scorecard. Hopefully it is legible for you on that screen, but we also have print copies of this and we have a digital form as well, and we can make sure you have a copy of this. We also have a flyer which has 7 priority asks to ask your candidates and link them with your patch, which we can also share, and I think that's already been shared. So this can be used as a bit of a guide, a messaging guide, also to keep your conversation points on focus, which would help me now if I had my notes in front of me on this. So I'm going to pull up to my notes on where I'm up to. And it should help you connect your patch to the priority needs for better nature protection in WA as well. So Cornwall might be able to link to some examples in tying up loose ends at the end of this as well. But what we're really hoping for at your meeting with candidates is some sort of commitment, some sort of indication from the candidates, their level of support for these priority asks. So what we're asking you to do is complete the forms, whether on paper, so bring it along with you on the day, or you can keep it to the side, bring it along and complete it after the meeting. And then we're asking you to send it to CCWA, your completed form, so we can get a sense of the political landscape and support for these nature priorities across different electorates. And that will help our work as well moving forward post the state election too. So to the next bit. And we might be able to post the links to the those resources into the chat now. Colma.
Sorry, Kat, I was just going to ask, just the slide you've just been through, because it's actually quite small print, can you just take us through, just read out the first couple of the 7 questions, and just maybe the dot point when people are going to see their candidate, that really simple ticker box thing, what they are?
Yeah, that's a really good point. Thanks, Colma. Bit of assumptions on my end there. So the 7 priority asks or reforms, I guess, we're looking for or change. And Christine, you have your hand up, so perhaps throw to you first.
So I just wanted to remind everyone that I did send out to you the flyer, the 7 straightforward questions, and also the scorecard. So if you've obviously opened the email to get the Zoom link, so you actually do have those on your email as well. So so we can put the link in the chat as well, but just reminding you that you do have it already on your computers.
Those have just been added to the chat as well, so you should be able to, if you have enough screens available and space available, click into those as well to download and view them. So to talk further to the 7 nature asks, I will talk to that more shortly as well, but just to run through them right now, I'll read them out, and hopefully that's okay to spend the time doing that. So to deliver new strong black cockatoo recovery plans to save all 3 black cockatoo species from extinction. A lot of these asks connect in with these strong black cockatoo recovery plans, so just keep that in mind because I'll get to that later. And update the biodiversity strategy for WA to protect and restore WA's ecosystems. Place a moratorium on clearing critical habitat and remnant native vegetation in WA. So if we have strong black cockatoo recovery plans, or a moratorium should be part of that. Fund ecological restoration programs to increase native vegetation cover to 30%. By 2040, I think was the goal, focusing on local government areas and bioregions with less than 10% cover. Support the WA Environmental Protection Authority to assess the state of the Swan Coastal Plain bioregion, and this goes to other bioregions across the state too. Limit the use of environmental offsets in WA and establish stringent criteria to guarantee the offsets contribute to an absolute gain in habitat and biodiversity. And I think that Christine and Colma might like to note that to tie that up in loose ends. And improve government consultation standards to ensure meaningful and ongoing public participation in environmental decision making. So that really lends itself to all of these points as well, and why we need reform right now too. The scorecard itself, if you haven't had a moment to look through it, it's really just an indication of your inferred idea of perception of what candidates' support level for each of these asks are. And we have a bit of a, I can't zoom in, sorry, so hopefully you've looked to the link. We've got a bit of a scale, and that runs through not applicable, so we didn't ask the candidate when we met with them. Undecided indicates the candidate was asked about the issue, but they didn't really provide a position on it. Strong oppose indicates that the candidate didn't support the priority at all, or the ask at all. Weak oppose, you can kind of see where I'm going with this. The candidate didn't not support the priority at this time. Weak support indicates they showed some level of support for the ask. And then a strong support really indicates they did support the ask and has made a commitment on it. Whether that be to follow up on the issue, or that, yes, they're aware that their party or as an independent, they have a position on it. That allows us to then follow up as well to get a written understanding of what that position is or positional policy is on that ask. So that's a really important, element of these resources. So thanks, Colma, for asking to go in a bit of detail on that. And any questions on any of these in web processes or contacts, we'll get to it at the end, but you can contact us. So moving on from here, I did just want to paint a picture for everyone here too, because it's hard to know everyone's level of understanding of what the context and the situation we have in front of us right now. So we're really talking about Western Australia or the West Coast here. Nature is facing multiple compounding threats amid declining government action and attention. In 2024, it was confirmed the warmest year on record globally, first calendar year to exceed that 1.5 degree. We've seen forest collapses, mass turtle deaths, marine heat waves, and bleaching, and a major penguin colony collapse as well. And last year, 42 species were added to the national threatened list. And we have a scenario as well where just now, very recently, the Federal Environment Minister approved South 32's bauxite mining expansion in the Northern Jarrah Forest, just south of Perth. And we also are faced with a situation where, Santos oil spill in the Pilbara coast in 2022, which was, I think, 25,000 litres of oil spilled, impacting marine life and killing marine life, was only fined $10,000. So if you bear with me, I would like to go through this because it is really valuable to give a bit of context, and it may support in speaking with the candidates. Christine as well, but if you're timekeeping, please put a hands up if I'm speaking for too long. Thanks. So we were promised nature positive, zero extinctions, and halting the loss of nature. But current decisions, are having the opposite effect to these promises. Federally, the Prime Minister has recently walked away. I'm sure you've probably seen it in the news. I hope you have. Walked away from the national nature laws promised in this term of government. That's after more than 2 years of efforts, ongoing beyond that too. And this retreat was spurred on by Premiers Cook lobbying and misrepresentation of West Australians, prioritising polluting industries over nature protection. In WA, there's been state government reforms passed, which Christine, I think, spoke to right at the start, that eroded the independence of WA's Environmental Protection Authority, and there's a whole bunch of reforms there as well tied into that. And these changes are made as the WA Climate Bill, an election promise from the state Labor government in 2021, has remained abandoned as well. So we're in a position where we need reform and we need change. And we do know as well that there's overwhelming public support for stronger nature laws nationally and in Western Australia. And here are some of the stats. Hopefully that's legible for most of you. If not, happy to share the recent research around on that. I think it was 78% of WA voters support stronger nature laws. So you're not alone in caring for nature. And as a community, though, we need to take collective action and make our voices heard. So it's really great that you are all able to join us tonight. So in way of collective action, that's what Conservation Council, UBC and other member groups and environmental groups have been doing. So in collaboration, we have worked with key member groups and partners to develop a set of environmental priorities in the lead up to the 2025 election. So that blue navy document on the left there, and perhaps we can link the perfect, Christine, the publications for people to access. So this is a more comprehensive overview of environmental priorities that we're calling on, and I encourage you to explore this as a resource, because it outlines some of the bigger goals that we're working towards beyond, I guess, the nature scope. It's a really valuable resource. Another resource available to you is the Protection Agenda for Nature, the green one there. If you're not colourblind, I shouldn't make that assumption. The middle one. And that really talks to the mechanisms needed to protect WA's environment. So major reform areas. It's not a comprehensive review of laws or agencies, but it's a consolidation of key reforms identified by Conservation Council WA and Alliance partners. And we are looking to expand upon this report and release a second final report, and we're seeking case studies on that, but I can share a link for that at the end of the meeting and share that round too. Rhiannon, if you're on the chat as well, perhaps you could tie that up in the loose ends. And so following on from these two publications or reports, we have the 7 straightforward questions about nature to ask politicians. So it's really a distilled version to get to some really quick key messages, things to help us have a unified voice across these different priorities, because there's a lot in there and a lot to it. So I'm just going to stick on this slide for a moment, and I'm sorry that it's not as legible as I would have liked, but I will talk a bit more about those 7 priorities. I would recommend, and I hope Colma and Christine feel the same way about this, that in our advocacy for urban bushlands and all the other asks that are there, you could just prioritise calling for number 1 there, delivering new strong black cockatoo recovery plans. Because that what this means is we can call, if you were at Environment Matters the other week, one of the audience members raised the black cockatoos and talked about the cockatoos as a flagship species. Thumbs up from Colma. Great, good. It just means that everything that we're calling for is absolutely interconnected with this top line asks. So if we meet all the needs to have really strong black cockatoo recovery plans, or all the other elements of our ask should be incorporated into those plans. Right now, the Department of Biodiversity, Conservation and Attractions is working with the Commonwealth to develop these multi-species recovery plans for all 3 threatened black cockatoo species in WA. I believe there is consultation happening with some groups, and there will be a potential for public comment prior to its finalisation. I think we just received an update today on that as well. So we can share that following this chat too for those interested. But to stay back on track on the 7 straightforward questions, I guess to put it very simply, strong recovery plans for black cockatoos will need moratorium on native vegetation to stop critical habitat being cleared. Strong black cockatoo recovery plans are and should be interconnected with a biodiversity plan for WA. We would be limiting offsets if we have strong black cockatoo recovery plans, and we would be looking to restoration funding in all these bioregions and local government areas if we were to have strong black cockatoo recovery plans. So it's really highlighting black cockatoos as a flagship species for all these points. And look, you might have other priorities that you want to highlight. It might be local planning. It might be 30 by 30 PU funding. It might be prescribed burning practices that you want to highlight, but it all can all tie back to strong black cockatoo recovery plan. And this all connects back to supporting the prioritisation of better nature laws in WA. And with that, I will hand over to Colma. And I will spotlight Colma too.
Thanks, Kat. And just as a little aside, what we've learned through Kat in pulling this together, if you are playing with Zoom and you spotlight somebody, it means that that key person talking, nobody else can interrupt them, even if you make a noise in your room or something like that. So that's a little tip we learnt today. So I was just going to very quickly, as Christine said, touch on the Legislative Council. Most of us spend our time going to see our local members, our local Legislative Assembly members, but the Legislative Council, as I'm sure you're all aware, is a really critical chamber. It reviews legislation passed by the lower house. It pushes a lot of that research off to its subcommittees, does an awful lot of work around that. It monitors, scrutinises and reviews government administration and expenditure, so not just the legislation coming through, but it's actually looking at what's happening across government departments as well. And it represents the people of WA around matters of public interest that should be heard or that people want heard, and it can bring them to public attention. And for lots of us too, as an example, that's where we have petitions that we put up to Parliament, and it's through the upper house that they get promotion or get some action happening around them. You're also possibly aware that there's a big change now to our upper house. It's out with the old and in with the new. So the old was what they called community of interest regions. We had 6 of them in our upper house, 3 in the regions and 3 metro. As an example, the agriculture one, or the South Metro one, or North Metro, Southwest agriculture. The mining and Pilbara was another one. And we were all in our own region represented by 6 members. So there was 36 seats in the upper house. So that's how the old days worked. And now we're coming in with a new. And in 2021, you might remember our state government passed legislation to abolish those regions, those upper house regions, and increase the size of the upper house by 1 seat. So it's going to be 37 seats. And all of it, it's it's the whole state, and they're all going to be elected at the state at large. So if you think about the federal Senate, it's very much like that. So we're going to be voting not just for potentially 6 people in what was an old region. We're now going to be voting for all 37 of them, which are going to be working in the upper house for the whole state. It's that, and as they say, it's really that sort of one vote, one value, combining the proportional and preferential voting system of the single transferable vote. And historically, I'm sure you know the reasons why it was regions before. So if we flip to the next slide, thanks, Kat. Because what that's also bringing with us is it's going to bring some new ways of voting in this next election. The ballot paper, or some people are referring to it as a bedspread, it's about 14 columns wide and about 40 rows long. You can vote either above the line, just like you can in the Senate, and this time you can number 1 or more squares. So if you want, you can put your preference, whichever your preference is, against each of the ones above the line. And then the WA Electoral Commission will follow the registered voting cards of that group. And they call them groups, not parties. So they'll go through that in the order of your voting preference. But if you vote for one particular group, the WAEC will first of all look at what their voting preference was down the line of all of their candidates. Or you can vote below the line, as you have been able to do before, and this time you can number up to 20 or more squares. So up to 20 or more, but remember, if you're going to be voting below the line, you have to number at least 20 squares. And the other thing is, and if you want, you can keep going to all 140 whatever of them. And just a little reminder to all of us, be careful not to do some markings above the line and below the line, because if you do, your vote will usually be considered informal or valid unless they can work out some clear way of your thinking. And the next slide, thanks, Kat. And this is just to let you know that at the moment, that as they said, all the candidates are in, and they've already decided the order of the ballot papers, but they haven't published them fully yet. And in the upper house, going across from the top, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, all the way across, that they are currently the groups that are putting themselves up on for the upper house or the Legislative Council, the Council of Review. So that was just a reminder to us about the upper house, and I suppose it's that bit about not neglecting them too. I know we're trying to see our local MPs, our local Assembly MPs, but the upper house is also an important place. So if you get a chance to even send some information to your candidates in the upper house, that would be a great thing to do too. And then with that, I was just going to jump to, I think we've already, as far as covering over resources, I think we've already, if we could just go to the next slide, thanks. I think we've already, through Kat's done a great job telling us about those different resources, particularly the 2 booklets, and also the 7 questions that you can use, and how you can fit your issue or your patch in under that. And I know Christine's been adding them in as we're going through, and after tonight we will again, probably Kat, we'll flick them out to all of you, so you'll have those links again. But the other thing we've got, and if we go to the next slide, we've got these groovy yard signs, and I brought mine in from the front of the yard to show you the size of them in that sense. So they're lovely big yard signs you can put out the front. You can either hang them off your fence or stick them on a post. One says Save Our Bushlands, one says Save the Black Cockatoo. And just to let you know that underneath, like to Save the Black Cockatoo, it's reminding people that we will lose our black cockatoos forever unless we protect the critical habitat they need to survive. Act now, be a voice for nature. And on those, if people want, there's little QR codes they can get more of those. If you're ordering them, and we'll send you the links again, it's what we're asking in the first instance is people come into West Perth to collect them, unless we can find out where people are and see if we can have some locations to bring them further out into the metropolitan area in particular, and for people to travel less distance to come and pick them up. But that will be a bit of a juggling exercise. And apart from that, the other resources obviously are the ones we've already been told about already, which is by Elizabeth. Thanks about, the WA Electoral Commission is a fantastic, obviously source to go to for finding out about your candidate and those sorts of things. And I think it was mentioned, if you don't find their contact details on that, as people said, their socials are often where you can find more information there. So I was going to wrap that up as our touch on the resources and the reminder, what's there, and move on to questions, because I think the questions are what's are really important this evening and what we wanted to give some time to. As Christine said at the beginning, we were going to, if you can, get people to put up if you go down to either down the bottom or up the top of your machine for the reactions and click on the putting your hand up, and we'll have people guiding us to see who's got their hand up. And the other side is we'd really like all of us to keep our questions short and sharp so we can get through as many as possible. And Christine or Kat, I'm thinking if we take away the screen share at the moment, we'll be able to see more people. Is that how that works? Yeah. Because lovely. So is there anyone, and there may already be some questions in the chat, where people have already asked a question, but is there already a hand up with someone with a question?
So let me just respond to a question in the chat. Somebody asked if we can make the signs available at our offices at UBC. We can do that, but we'll need to negotiate a time because we're not in the office all the time. So we would need to come in to do that. So Kat's got a hand up. Yeah, Kat, do you want to?
But I'll try and raise my hand. On that, UBC is actually just across the road, really up the street from Conservation Council WA. So if you can make it to UBC, you can make it to Conservation Council. So we can share the address as well afterwards too. Yeah.
And I've just seen another question there. Someone's asked about, just flick through about, can we pick up some signs in Hammy Hill? And Robin said as soon as you can get some. So between Robin and myself, we will organise for some signs to get to somewhere in Hammy Hill for people to be able to pick some up.
Thanks, Robin. Any other questions?
We've got Sue's got a question. You just got to unmute.
Yeah, if you would. How's that?
Lovely.
Good. Yes, I just immediately came to mind thinking about those yard signs. That is there any issue with us having them displayed on the fences at our bushland reserves?
Over to Christine.
Oh, right. I was thinking I might sneak a sign or two there.
Yes.
There's probably no. I'll have to have a look at the rules for candidates about signs, but I understand that in that 4-week window that they are able to put signs up. So I reckon we can put signs up as well. How many should we put up, Sue?
I think from every direction that people can look at your reserve from, they should be up there.
Kat, were you wanting to answer a question? Were you wanting to answer? Yep. And you're
If
on
I
mute.
may, there might be a really good idea if people are interested in putting up signs, yard signs, and they're interested in putting them up in really high visible locations and relevant locations. Would love to have a chat so we know where they might be going, because we know that political parties do this, right? It might be good to know where they're going, so we know that after the election we can collect them too. So we're not leaving something in a place that, yeah, we really should collect them afterwards as well. So just something to bear in mind, but I would absolutely be encouraging that.
The other suggestion that came out the other day from the wonderful man who was doing the audio-visual filming at the Environment Matters, and so I started doing that. What he does is he uses them in his car, and he uses them in his front windscreen as a way to block the sun coming in, but for other people to read the signs he's got. So that's another option. And on them too, and I haven't got the piece of paper in front of me, sorry, Kat, but one of the bits Cons Council's asking us to do is when we do put up one of these signs, apart from letting them know where the location is actually to take a photo. And there's just a mobile number photo, but we'll flick it out to you. Sorry, I haven't got it on me right now. There's some, there you go. There's a question that's come through about whether there'll be any signs going down to Greater Bunbury. Is there anyone going down to Greater Bunbury in the next little while?
Well, I am next Wednesday.
Oh, there you go. Maybe.
I travel to Bunbury regularly, so I can pick some up and take some down.
Okay, fantastic. And maybe it's just organising that. There's some Cons Council member groups down there, so maybe even if they went to one of those and people were able to collect them from there. Is there any other questions? Because I had one I wanted to ask Kat, but has anyone else got any questions?
There looks to be some in the chat.
Okay.
Well.
So somebody's commented that DBCA did not complain about signs on Cape Peron. So, yeah, so let's do it. There is a question. How do we get the message across on our Facebook pages about the parties and candidates who are supportive? I guess that will need a bit of care about, especially if you've got people who aren't supportive. I guess candidates some candidates, especially the Labor candidates, have been out in force with their local groups or community groups promising funding. It looks like it's a very extensive strategy, so they're really publicising that. So I guess if you have a photo that you've taken when you're in this meeting, then you could put that on your socials. Just might be careful about any particular, watch your language a bit in terms of comments if they've said that a good black cockatoo is a dead one. So just watch that. Have a view about whether or not that'll get you in hot water with others or create a lot of comments.
The other thing too,
Kat's probably got some comments on that as well, Colma. Yeah.
I'm not sure who Google Pixel 7 Pro is, but if you would like to also contact me afterwards, always happy to support in creating graphics if we need on socials. That's the same goes for other member groups too. Christine and Colma, we're starting to build up our capacity here as well. So there's definitely strategies and tactics that we can do as we build up our capacity, I guess. Yeah.
I was just thinking about with people's Facebook pages and things like that is also being able to put up the straightforward, the 7 questions, so that's rippling out there more and more, even if so that other people that aren't here tonight might pick it up and go off and see their candidate as well. Now, is there someone
So-
else with a hand up?
So that's
Yes.
Lee, our Google Pixel. So Lee from Save
Yeah.
Churchlands Bushland.
Yes,
So,
sorry.
Lee, do you
I
want to
don't
come
know
off?
how to put my name.
Oh, yeah, don't worry about that. we work it out. So you have a question?
I'm the one that asked the question about the Facebook page, because I've got a Facebook page that I've gone quite hard on the political candidates and basically told everybody who I'm supporting. And because it's a Facebook page mostly, well, with supporters, because I find it very difficult to not make this political, because to me the decision makers are political, and I personally feel that we've got to stop walking on tiptoes around all these political candidates. I mean, unfortunately, I'm in Churchlands, which has got Basil Zemplis and I'm going to say it. I know you're not meant to, but I do say it. I mean, he'd be absolutely dreadful. And I've got Christine Tonkin, who wants to bowl the bushland area that I'm trying to preserve over to put a road through it, even though she appears to be quite pro looking after things and gets involved in weeding and things with friends groups. But we've also got the independent candidate, Lisa Thornton, who is very environmental. So I've been pushing her, and, you know, I think maybe a lot of people here would not agree with that tactic. But I've said to everybody on the Facebook page that I don't know. It's my page, I'm running it. So I've said to people quite frankly that
she likes.
I'm just telling you, I've met with each candidate. I've spoken to them all at the Bushland, and these are the ones that support the Bushland, and that is the Greens and the Independent. Basil Zemplis is unfortunately sitting on the fence, and Christine Tonkin, we know, wants the road. So I've just said it like I see it.
And Lee, I'm going to just jump back in here, and I suppose that's great, because you are able to do that, and it's your Facebook page. What might be interesting now that when you see the scorecard, it might be interesting to retrospectively to go back. You've had your conversations with your candidates and see if you could tick off those responses against. If some of these 7 were what came up for you or they're relevant for you, you can give us a guide on that. And I'm not going to get into discussion about it now, but understandably, groups like Urban Bushland Council don't do that, because to do that, we would have to get the support of our entire membership to be able to do things. So it's a great time to be able to raise. Raise awareness and get nature out there. It's a great opportunity at the moment, and we don't often have this opportunity in the media to be getting our concerns and our suggestions out to the various candidates. I'm going to see, is there anyone else? I'm aware of time, and is there anyone else that has any questions?
In the chat, Lisa Craft has asked a question.
And it is?
Where did you get the 7? Yeah. So where did you get the 7 questions from? How did you decide on them? So let me answer that. They came out of the the last 12 months of working with in the alliance with CCWA, and they're ones that really resonate with the concerns that we have about the nature laws, and I would say all of those resonate with the things that UBC has been advocating for more than 30 years. So we had a big hand in making sure that the things that we are passionate about for urban biodiversity were in there, but we were also working with all of the other nature, the environmental NGOs, and so there's a whole heap of synergy there. most of those things, all of those things, actually for each of the, almost like the types of ecosystem, they could apply to the forest or they could apply to the wheat belt. So they've got a universality about them as well as a specificity. So I've been really pleased with them, and at every time we've had a draft, I've gone back to one of our core documents and made sure that I could tick off the things that UBC has advocated for previously. So different set of words, but yeah, that's how we got to it. It's a real collaboration effort. So I hope that
I'm just going to
question.
jump in here. I'm sorry. Jane, you had a question and asked it to be answered, but I can't find your question. Sorry, are you able to unmute yourself and ask the question?
Yes, thank you very much. I was interested in the signs to put on the verge, and I wanted to ask what recycling options you had in mind, and also did you want a donation for them to help cover the cost? Because I can imagine not only groups but friends and family being very keen to take them to get as many out as possible.
And I'm going to pass over to Kat to answer that one for us. Thanks, Kat.
Thanks. Great question. In way of recycling, I think we're probably going to need them up for a significant amount of time. But when we do go to collect them, once we get our strong black cockatoo recovery plans and the like, we could just bring them back in to be painted over for future campaigns. We always need placards and yard signs. So I'd say that for now. We have gone with environmental printing companies to produce the signs. We know that it's a plastic material though, so if we can bring them back in to be painted over or reused and repurposed for future campaigns, that's great. In way of donations, we really just want them out in the community to raise awareness right now. Appreciate the ask. There's always challenges with election asks and donations. So right now in this forum that we're having online, that is being recorded as well, I'd just say we're just happy to get them out in the community. But you could follow up about donations with Palmer or Christine or myself later on if you feel strongly about it. So thank you. That's really great.
And just jumping in there, both Conservation Council and Bushland Council, you can go online and there is a donations thing you can click on, and certainly Cons Council is also pulling donations in to focus on the nature program, which is fantastic. I'm going to pass over to Christina, or else she's going to tell me off.
Thank you, Colma. So thank you everyone for being here this evening. What we'd love you to do is think about how you might develop a working relationship with whoever the successful candidate ends up being after the election, so that start developing that relationship so that you can get them down into your patch, talk to them more about the priorities. So we're in election mode at the moment, but most of our work is going to be after the election as we try, as we work to persuade the new government that they need to put some more about the environment into what they do. I haven't heard a single word on any of the main media, TV or radio media that mentions the word environment. So we need to change that. So in closing, I just want to remind you all that the Urban Bushland Council's annual general meeting is on the 4th of March, and we've got Daniel Jan Martin from UWA speaking on creating the Yulebrook Regional Park. Now that is in and around the Greater Brixton Street wetlands, one of the most biodiverse parts of the Swan Coastal Plain, and it's a focus area for UBC for this next year. It's part of our want to make sure that we really protect this area, and it is so under threat from from development. You know, there's just an increasing number of developments going on, and we've got appeals coming up for major developments around those areas. And I guess in saying thank you, you know, if you're not, I know many of you didn't have an affiliation to a group. Use our website to work out where your closest friends group is. Go along and join a group. They're usually a great bunch of people, and you'll have a lot of fun as well as learn a lot about nature and caring for the environment. And thank you all. And look at that, it's 7:01. Okay, so I've blown the time budget. So thank you very much, everyone, for coming along, and I will close off now. Thank you. And I might just end this for everyone. Thank you all. Thank you to my co-contributors. And thanks, Robin, for the thumbs up.